India loves one number when it talks about education. 98.1%. That's the national school enrollment rate in 2024. On paper, it looks like a success story. A country that has managed to bring almost every child in school. But here is the question no one asks. What happens after the child enters in a classroom? Because the data tells a very different story. According to ASER 2024, more than half of India's 10-year-old cannot even read a single age-appropriate text. This is what economists and policy experts call learning poverty. 56%. So while children are present in school, they are not actually learning. This is invisible bridge, the gap between schooling and education. And nowhere is this gap more visible than in India's urban slums. Let's start with the classroom itself. By grade 5, a child is expected to read fluently, understand the basic concepts, and move towards independent learning. But in government schools, which is mostly attended by slum children, only 44.8% of grade 5 students can read a grade 2 level text. That means more than half of these children are already behind by 3 years. This is called the grade gap. And once a child falls behind in reading, everything else begins to collapse. Science, math, history, all of it depends on comprehension. So what do students do instead? They memorize. They pass exams without understanding concepts. Until one day they hit a wall, a point where memorization stops working. That's when learning breaks completely. Now look at math. Only 30.7% of grade 5 children in India can solve a basic division problem. Think about that. These are concepts introduced in early primary school. What's more interesting is this. Many of these children can easily calculate change in shop, navigate mobile apps, even manage small transactions. But they cannot solve textbook arithmetics. This tells us that something is very critical. The problem is not about the intelligence, the problem is translation. The system is failing to connect real life skills and academic learning together. So where is the system breaking? The first layer is what we can call the infrastructure chaos. In school, basic facilities exist on paper. Toilet, water, buildings, but more than 25,000 schools in India still do not have functional electricity. In dense urban slums, classrooms are overcrowded, poorly ventilated, and often physically exhausting spaces. But the real disruption begins at home. A typical slum household is a single room, multiple family members, constant noise, no dedicated study space. A child trying to study is competing with cooking sounds, television conversations, and street noise. There is no silence. There is no continuity. And to that, poor lighting, heat, and air pollution. These are not minor inconveniences. They directly affect cognitive performance, attention span, and health. A child who is sick, distracted, or fatigued cannot learn. And when that child misses even a few days of school, there is no system to help them. That gap became permanent. The second layer is what looks like a progress but isn't, the digital paradox. Nearly 90% of adolescents in India now have access to smartphones. 80% know how to use it, but only about 57% use it for any form of learning. Most of that uses is passive. Scrolling, watching, consuming, not understanding. So we have a generation that is digitally fluent but academically fragile. They can navigate apps but struggle with sentences. They can share videos but cannot interpret them critically. And there is another layer: gender. We say that now we are moving towards equality, but in slum areas, still boys are significantly more likely to own personal devices than girls. Girls have less access, less autonomy, and less exposure to digital tools. Which means the digital gap is not about the access, it's about the control. But the deepest fracture lies elsewhere, at home. Or more accurately, what is missing at home: the second teacher. In middle class families, learning does not stop after schools. Parents help with homework, tutors fill the gap, there is reinforcement. Basically, what is learned by the child is get reinforced. But in slums, the system does not exist. Not because parents do not care, but because they cannot afford to. Around 90% of India's workforce is informal. Daily wage earners, domestic workers, construction laborers, most of them works 12 to 14 hours a day. There is no fixed schedule, no job security, no time. Education becomes a morning activity where whatever a child learns in school begins to fade by evening because no one is there to reinforce. And when parents themselves are not literate, they cannot even access whether their child is learning or just passing the exams. So the system silently shifts towards rote learning. Certificates are increasing, but competence does not. Now bring this closer. Pune, Pimpri-Chinchwad, nearly 40% of Pune's population lives in slums. Out of every 100 slum children, only 32 complete their age-appropriate education. Only 16% of youth are aware of even 5 career options available to them. So even when children stay in school, they don't know where the education is supposed to take them. This is not just about learning crisis, it is about an aspiration crisis. And yet there are small models that work. Organizations are helping to them. They are solving one problem: continuity. They focus on level-based learning, not grade-based. A child starts from where they actually are, not where the system assumes them to be. Level 1, basic letters and numbers. Level 2, words and simple math. Level 3, reading paragraphs and solving problems. And alongside teaching, they handle something equally critical: documentation, Aadhaar card, bank accounts, school admissions, because for many families, even entering the system is barrier. This is not just about the education, this is about the navigation. At the policy level, India knows the problem. The National Education Policy 2020 and the Nipun Bharat Mission aim to ensure that every child achieves foundational literacy and numeracy by grade 3. There is progress. More teacher trainings are going on. More focus on basics, but implementation is uneven. One teacher still handles multiple grades. In others, teachers are pulled into administrative duties. So while policy is moving forward, ground reality is still. So where does this leave us? India has built the school. India has filled the classroom, but it has not built the bridge between attendance and learning. That bridge is not made of buildings or policies. It is made of fundamentals: reading, understandings, reinforcement, continuity. Until a child can read, think, and apply, enrollment will remain a number. A very impressive number, but still just a number. Because the real question is not whether children are going to school. The real question is where school is reaching the child. I'm Apeksha. I'm Apeksha, and this was the story of bridge we still haven't built. Thank you.